Hey juniors, congratulations on reaching the end of e-learning and reaching the end of your junior year. I just want to make this one last video here because I kind of have a thing for endings. I'm sentimental that way, and I think that you deserve, after all of the hard work that you've put in this year, especially the last 2 months, I think that you deserve a little bit something. And I'm sentimental that way. It's the last time that I'm going to see you, so I figured I'd leave you with something good. So I've been thinking lately about just like what situation you've been in, and there's this book that I really like that is by a comedian named Demetri Martin, who has some specials on Netflix if you'd like to check him out, and it's just a book of funny images. And there's one that I think pretty well describes how you might be feeling right now with everything that's going on. So I'll insert a closer image that you can see right here. So as you've experienced, I think your junior year of high school is your hardest year of high school, as you're kind of progressing into thinking about what you're going to be doing after high school, as you were preparing for the SAT, but then the SAT has now fallen through, and as you're picking classes for your senior year about how things are going to play out after high school. And now with everything else that's going on, it feels like just all of these soccer balls and volleyballs and everything else is being thrown at you, and this is what we call life. Things are so uncertain right now with the SAT postponed, with all of the work that you've been doing with e-learning. Nobody knows when the SAT will come back. No one knows how long staying at home will stay in place. Nobody knows when things will go back to normal. There's obviously a whole lot of uncertainty going on in your lives right now. So a question that I've been grappling with during quarantine and during e-learning is, well, there's no alarm that makes me get up in the morning anymore. I don't have to get up at 6 a.m. anymore, which has been great. But then, like, what's my purpose? What is getting me up in the morning? If I don't have to be getting up, then what am I doing? And it's gotten me to ask this question about, well, what is hope then? What is giving me hope? What is my reason for actually getting up? So I ordered a book, and I actually just finished it. This other book called Hope Dies Last, and it's by Studs Terkel, who is a famous Chicago oral historian. That he's dead now, but he went around to neighborhoods and he would just get people's stories and he would just collect them, and he would write books based on themes of all the stories that he had heard. And this book is all about hope. So I was thinking first, just fundamentally, like, what is hope? So there's this passage very quickly that I just want to read to you that really spoke to me, that I hope speaks to you a little bit. So in this chapter, he's interviewing two brothers, one of whom is a priest. So here is what he says. Hope is a thing with feathers, or at least that's what Emily Dickinson says. Hope is the people I see day by day, parents really struggling to get their kids raised and through school, who take on 2 or 3 jobs to do that. Hope is people of my parish going through terminal illnesses but staying above it, not letting it dominate them. Hope is the people who minister to them. Hope is people working in the peace movement to keep us out of the war in Iraq, or working to provide affordable housing. Hope has a human face. Sure, I'm worried, but as long as we have people who are speaking out loud and clear and holding our leaders accountable, I'm hopeful. Hope dies last. So hopefully that means something to you. The title of the book that's inspired by this interview here and a quote from a labor organizer, Hope Dies Last, really speaks to me. And I think as we've studied American history together, and as you've studied it even before I was here, hopefully that's something that rings true to you, is that we've seen a lot of people persist against the odds. Why? Because they had hope. If they had nothing else, they had hope. We studied a lot of civil rights movements, a lot of organizers who, even though the laws were stacked against them, they had hope that things can be better. During the Great Depression, things really, really sucked, but there was hope that things got better. This type of hope is something that I try to cling on to, and it's something that I hope that you have as well too. Hope that things are going to get better, right now in terms of this pandemic, but even broader than that. If you're unhappy with your situation, if you're unhappy with school, if you're unhappy with anything else, that there is hope that things get better. So perhaps the next question is then, like, what gives us hope? So if we kind of know what hope is, and we know that we should believe in it, if we believe that hope is true and hope is going to keep us going, then what gives us hope? Well, earlier during e-learning, I told you that one of my heroes is Robert Kennedy, the brother of John F. Kennedy. And I made an extension activity about him, but I don't think anybody did it, and I don't blame you for that. The extension activities are totally optional, but I'm going to make you listen to part of a speech that he gives right now. So this is a speech that he gave actually in South Africa. And he gave this to a group of college students. And I think his message about what hope is and what hope can do is really powerful. So here's Robert Kennedy giving that speech.
Our answer is the world's hope. It is to rely on youth. The cruelties and the obstacles of this swiftly changing planet will not yield to obsolete dogmas and outworn slogans. It cannot be moved by those who cling to a present which is already dying, who prefer the illusion of security to the excitement and danger which comes with even the most peaceful progress. This world demands the qualities of youth, not a time of life, but a state of mind, a temper of the will, a quality of the imagination, a predominance of courage over timidity, of the appetite for adventure over the life of ease. It is a revolutionary world that we all live in. And thus, as I have said in Latin America, and in Asia, and in Europe, and in my own country, the United States, it is the young people who must take the lead. Thus, you and your young compatriots everywhere have had thrust upon you a greater burden of responsibility than any generation that has ever lived. There is, said an Italian philosopher, nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to conduct, or more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things. Yet this is the measure of the task of your generation, and the road is strewn with many dangers. First is the danger of futility, the belief there is nothing one man or one woman can do against the enormous array of the world's ills, against misery, against ignorance, or injustice and violence. Yet many of the world's great movements of thought and action have flowed from the work of a single man. A young monk began the Protestant Reformation. A young general extended an empire from Macedonia to the borders of the earth. And a young woman reclaimed the territory of France. It was a young Italian explorer who discovered the New World, and 32-year-old Thomas Jefferson, who proclaimed that all men are created equal. Give me a place to stand, said Archimedes, and I will move the world. These men move the world, and so can we all. Few will have the greatness to bend history, but each of us can work to change a small portion of the events, and in the total, all of these acts will be written in the history of this generation. Thousands of Peace Corps volunteers are making a difference in the isolated villages and the city slums of dozens of countries. Thousands of unknown men and women in Europe resisted the occupation of the Nazis, and many died, but all added to the ultimate strength and freedom of their countries. It is from numberless, diverse acts of courage such as these that the belief that human history is thus shaped. Each time a man stands up for an ideal, or acts to improve the lot of others, or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope, and crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance.
I think what Robert Kennedy does in that speech that is really just so brilliant to me is he ties hope with power. Is that if you believe that you have power, then you can have hope that things can change. As he says, you're going to create a tiny ripple of hope, and with that you can wipe down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. So my challenge to you, and what I'm always reflecting in my head, is what is my tiny ripple of hope? What is your tiny ripple of hope now? How are you going to make that ripple of hope even bigger as you continue? These are the things that I think are really important as we think about what are we doing for ourselves and what are we doing for others. So let me tell you a little about what gives me hope, especially has been in the past 2 months. And I know that it's cheesy, but all of you have really given me hope. Seeing you show up for e-learning, being committed to school has really given me hope. Some of you who are still going to work, that gives me hope that you're committed to helping your community and helping your family by still going to work during these super weird times. You are concerned about what's going on in the world. Time and time again, I've been impressed by the work that you have turned in because you care about other people and justice for them about what's going wrong. I was really impressed when you were doing your research on the LGBTQ movement. How many of you chose the transgender military ban? Because that's something that's going on right now. It's a form of oppression right now. And how many of you wanted to know more about that? I was really impressed by. You all are funny, you all are insightful, and you all are committed, and seeing those attributes and being really fun people to be around when we actually work together, but fun people to be with digitally too, gives me a lot of hope. I want to share with you then one final image from this book that has really gotten me through a lot of hard times, and especially recently I've just been looking back at it and thinking about what it means to me. I'll put an image of it now. I'm sure your English teachers can tell you all about the symbolism of this, or your art teachers can do that, but I'll tell you what it means to me. So many times when things come to an end, it sucks. It feels like you've put a lot of work into something, and then sometimes just like this tree stump, it just cuts off. You know, and you could see that tree stump is thick. There was a lot of years with it, but then growing out of that tree stump is a new tree. I don't know, I love that idea that when you're going to be cut down, and I know in your lives you have already felt cut down, you're going to feel cut down in the future, hope and your power is what's going to bring that tree stump back up. That you're going to start growing a new tree, and eventually that tree will grow just as big as the old one. With your hope then, and with your power, I stick by this phrase that has always meant a lot to me, is that do not let what is get in the way of what should be. As you move on through high school, as you move on post-high school, as you move on with the rest of your life, keep hold to that. There are things in the world that don't work the way that they should be. Don't let that stop you. Have hope that things can be better. If nothing else, I hope in the past 2 weeks I've given you a whole bunch of historical case studies where hope has proven true, is that when people have hoped for things to be better, they become better. So in this very strange time then, you have shown immense resiliency, you have shown immense smarts, and you have shown that you are kind and caring people, and that's something that just can't be taught. So I thank you very much for the absolute honor that it has been to be in your classroom for the past few months, for going on this very strange journey with me. You've probably seen my face on YouTube more than you ever wanted to, but I've had an absolute blast. It's been a lot of fun to spend all of this time with you. I thank you for the honor it's been to teach you for a little bit, and as you move forward, I'm very excited to see what you do next, because you're only just getting started.